The woods were never a comforting place at night, especially when a campfire was the only source of light. The flickering flames cast eerie shadows that danced around us, as if taunting us with the secrets they held. I was huddled around the fire with my friends, trying to ignore the unsettling feeling that crept up my spine. We laughed and joked, hoping to dispel the growing unease. Jim, the bravest of us all, decided to share a chilling tale he'd heard from the locals. Legend had it that a vengeful spirit haunted these woods, seeking retribution for a terrible crime committed centuries ago. The spirit, known as the Whispering Widow, was said to lure unsuspecting travelers deeper into the woods, where they would meet a fate worse than death. We all laughed nervously, dismissing the story as nothing more than folklore. But as the night wore on, the crackling of the campfire seemed to echo the tales we had just heard. Shadows danced between the trees, and every rustle of leaves sent shivers down our spines. Then, out of the darkness, we heard a faint whisper that seemed to come from all directions at once. It was impossible to discern the words, but the voice was unmistakably haunting. Fear gripped our hearts, and we huddled closer together, hoping that safety could be found in numbers. As we stared into the depths of the woods, our eyes played tricks on us. Shapes moved among the trees, and our minds conjured images of grotesque figures lurking in the shadows. A sudden gust of wind caused the flames to dance wildly, casting an unsettling glow over our faces. Then, without warning, the whispers grew louder, filling the air around us. It was as if the woods themselves were alive with malevolence. Panic set in, and we debated whether to stay and face the unknown or flee for our lives. Just as we were about to make a decision, a piercing scream echoed through the night. It was a blood-curdling sound that sent terror coursing through our veins. We knew we couldn't stay any longer, so we scrambled to our feet and ran blindly in the opposite direction of the scream. The woods seemed to close in around us, becoming a maze of darkness and despair. With each step, our fear intensified, and we could feel an unseen force closing in on us. We could no longer hear the whispers, but the silence was somehow even more unsettling. In our panic, we became separated, and I found myself alone in the heart of the haunted woods. My heart pounded in my chest, drowning out any other sound. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent me spiraling into terror. In the distance, I saw a flicker of light, and a glimmer of hope ignited within me. I stumbled towards it, desperate to find my friends and escape this nightmare. As I drew closer, I realized it was the campfire we had abandoned. But there was something wrong. The fire was burning with an unnatural intensity, the flames glowing an eerie blue. Fear overpowered my curiosity, and I turned to leave, but something held me in place. It was as if an invisible force rooted me to the spot. I tried to call out for help, but my voice was barely a whisper. Then, from the darkness emerged a figure, a woman in a tattered white gown, her face obscured by dark, matted hair. The Whispering Widow. She moved towards me with an ethereal grace, her feet barely touching the forest floor. As she drew nearer, I could feel a coldness enveloping me, draining me of all warmth and courage. Her eyes, glowing like the blue flames of the fire, bore into my soul, and I knew she was not of this world. I tried to run, but my legs refused to cooperate. It was as if I were paralyzed by her gaze. The Whispering Widow raised a bony finger and pointed it at me, and in that moment, I felt a searing pain shoot through my entire being. Visions flashed before my eyes, scenes of suffering, pain, and sorrow. It was as if I was witnessing the memories of all those who had fallen victim to her wrath. I could hear their anguished cries, their desperate pleas for mercy. With a final burst of strength, I tore my gaze away from hers and managed to break free from the invisible shackles that held me. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't look back as I ran, fueled by sheer terror and survival instinct. I eventually reunited with my friends, and we didn't stop running until we were far from the woods. We never spoke about that night again, but the horrors we experienced that night stayed with us forever. The Whispering Widow's chilling whispers haunted our dreams, and the terror we felt in those woods never truly left us. From that night on, We knew that some legends were more than just stories, they were warnings. The whispering woods held a malevolence that we could never comprehend, and the thought of returning to those haunted grounds sent shivers down our spines. The woods would forever remain a place of nightmares, and the whispering widow's tale would live on, passed down from generation to generation, warning others of the horrors that lurked in the shadows. In the heart of a dense, ancient forest stood a campfire, its flickering flames dancing in the darkness of the night. A group of friends gathered around, huddling close to the warmth, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow. I was one among them, sitting cross-legged, listening to the night's secrets. As we laughed and shared stories, a sudden chill enveloped the clearing, stealing the joy from our hearts. A haunting silence fell upon the woods, and the crackling of the fire was the only sound to break the stillness. The shadows grew longer, and a sense of foreboding gripped us. In the distance, I heard the faint rustle of leaves, like a skeletal hand tracing patterns on the forest floor. My heart pounded in my chest, and a cold sweat drenched my brow. I tried to dismiss the unsettling feeling, attributing it to the usual sounds of the wilderness. But then, from the shadows emerged a figure tall, gaunt, and cloaked in darkness. It was as if the night itself had taken form. My voice caught in my throat, and I tried to warn my friends, but terror held me captive. The figure moved with unnatural grace, gliding toward us, its eyes gleaming like fiery embers. Fear paralyzed us all, and we could only watch as it drew nearer. As it stepped into the light of the campfire, I caught a glimpse of its face, hollow cheeks, a twisted grin, and eyes devoid of humanity. In that moment, I felt a presence all around us, countless unseen eyes peering from the shadows. The forest seemed to come alive with malevolence, as if it were a living, breathing entity. A cacophony of whispers, like a chorus of the damned, filled the air, and the very earth seemed to groan in anguish. The figure spoke, its voice like a venomous whisper that crawled inside our minds. "You have come to my domain, little mortals," it hissed. "But you do not belong here." My friends trembled, their faces pale with terror. I found my voice and asked, "What do you want from us?" "I crave your fear," it replied, its voice sending shivers down my spine. "Fear sustains me, empowers me. I feed on your terror." The fire's flames wavered and swayed as if reacting to the creature's words. The campfire, once a source of comfort, now seemed an inadequate shield against the encroaching darkness. "Please, leave us be," one of my friends pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. The figure seemed to take delight in our anguish, relishing the fear it had unleashed. It began to circle us, a predator toying with its prey. The woods grew darker, the trees leaning closer as if eager to witness our torment. In a desperate attempt to escape, we decided to flee. But as we turned to run, the forest betrayed us. The once familiar paths twisted and turned, leading us in circles. Panic gripped us tighter, and despair settled in our hearts. We stumbled upon a long-abandoned cabin, its timbers creaking in the wind. We sought refuge within its decaying walls, praying for respite from the horrors outside. But the cabin offered no safety, for within its walls dwelled the memories of a tragedy long forgotten. The ghostly echoes of past inhabitants haunted us, their anguished wails reverberating through the stale air. Shadows danced on the walls, taking the shape of twisted, contorted figures. Our very souls felt tormented, as if we were being torn apart from the inside. Whispers encircled us, creeping into our minds like tendrils of darkness. They spoke of unspeakable horrors, of tragedies that had befallen those who had entered the woods before us. Each whisper carried the weight of lost souls, and the burden threatened to crush our spirits. We were trapped in the cabin, prisoners to the malevolent spirits that called it home. The night seemed never-ending, an eternity of terror that refused to release its hold. Exhaustion gnawed at us, but we dared not close our eyes, for fear of what lurked in the darkness. As the first light of dawn approached, the malevolent presence began to recede, vanishing back into the depths of the forest. The whispers grew fainter, and the shadows retreated. With trembling limbs, we stepped out of the cabin, each step taking us further away from the nightmare. As we emerged from the woods, the sunlight bathed us in its warm embrace, and a sense of relief washed over us. We had survived the night, but the horrors we encountered would forever haunt our dreams. From that day forward, we never spoke of what happened in the woods that fateful night. The memories remained locked away, buried deep within our hearts. But whenever we heard the faintest rustle of leaves or felt an eerie chill in the air, we were reminded of the sinister entity that lurked in the shadows. The campfire at night in the woods had become a symbol of both comfort and dread, a place where laughter once resonated but now a haunting reminder of the night we faced the unimaginable horrors that lurk beyond the flames. And as the years passed, I often found myself gazing into the darkness, wondering if the malevolent presence still lingered, waiting for its next unsuspecting victim.